budget to the Public Health Commission and asked the City Council to reallocate 20% of the police overtime budget, or about 12 million, to other programs. So this indeed is progress, and I think he deserves to be applauded. This is the city I'm proud of, and I think you should be too, because we are spearheading all these events. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here. And guys, I would like to finish by saying that we thank you for all the other groups that are here and who have taken the time to speak on these things. And we must say that action needs to be taken. We cannot be inert. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Qayyum. May I request all the speakers to please wear gloves because you're handling this mic. Dr. Salman Malik. Thank you.
Can you all hear me?
Woohoo!
All right. I'm going to read this because I think it'll be faster and more. I'm an oral maxillofacial surgeon in New Hampshire. I live in New Hampshire. I practice there. I'm an immigrant. I'm the son of immigrants. I'm a Muslim. I'm a Pakistani. But most importantly, I'm an American. And today I speak to you as an American. Watching the video of George Floyd was, to say the least, profoundly disturbing. How could this happen in broad daylight in front of a crowd and by a trained police officer? What kind of society are we living in where we can watch a human being get killed in front of our eyes and not do anything? Why did no one try to stop this brutal act? If it were my son, no matter what the crime, would I have wanted someone to do something to make it stop? Anything to make it stop. Our nation needs to ask some serious questions. Why are black men being killed with such alarming rates? How do we move forward to make our society more just? What is the role of each one of us to make that happen? Though most police officers are honorable and want nothing better than to serve and protect, there is a problem. And there is a problem in our culture, maybe in ourselves, in how we view, see, and treat young black men. We need a change, but that change won't happen in a vacuum. It will take a village. Our society must take ownership and work with our leaders to enact policies that are fair, just, and equitable. That is why I'm here today, and that is why I helped to organize our rally. Thank you and peace.
Thank you, Dr. Malik. Now our host organization, Association of Pakistani Physicians of New England's Vice President, Dr. Saud.
Hello everybody, can you hear me?
Woohoo!
All right. First of all, I would like to say thank you everybody for coming today. This is a historic day. Everybody has to stand up against this because enough is enough. First of all, I'm a frontline provider. I'm a physician. I'm supposed to work tomorrow in the COVID unit to take care of all the COVID patients. I choose to come here today to do my share to protest against this pandemic. Their watch has said that on Monday, on the last Friday, that this has turned out into a public health crisis and has reached up to a pandemic level. So we have to stand up against the racial discrimination. But before that, I would like everybody to make sure that they're wearing the masks and they are standing at least 6 feet apart from everybody. So please take an effort of making sure that they're keeping social distancing. All right. So I would say no justice. If you guys can say no peace. No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
Right. So I would like to promote the allocation of funding for all the interventions that to dismantle the racism in the delivery of medical care. Because believe it or not, it's 2020, but we do still see that. So I want to dedicate some more funding on that to understand the better role of that. Also, I would like to acknowledge the role of the positive effects of the law enforcement in our lives, but at the same time, I would also like to see what are the factors which results into the racial discrimination and results into events like this. So please, I would, if you'd like to support with me in terms of getting more funding, in terms of studying, like what are the effects that leads to that, and get some action items in terms of how to end that. At the end, I would like to say thank you all again for standing with me today in this historic moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just want everybody to know that at the end of the when we finish, all the speakers, we will have take the moon and read all the names. So please stay for that. Now, we're privileged to invite the President of our national organization, Association of Pakistani Physicians of North America, Dr. Usmani.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Wa alaikum
Peace to
assalam.
all of you. I represent as President of Association of Physicians of Pakistani descent in North America, approximately 18,000 Pakistani physicians who are in this country and serving the citizenship here. We owe our existence in this country. We were able to come to this country on the shoulders of all the efforts that our African American brothers put in and allowed for immigration for different racial groups and countries. Our nation once again finds itself at a profoundly important inflection point that demands resolution of a fundamental question that has long plagued the soul of America. Will we as a republic finally confront and dismantle the centuries-old structures of racism that have marked and marred our systems, institutions, and ways of life? The senseless and tragic death of George Floyd, an unarmed black man, during his arrest by 4 Minneapolis police officers last month, has triggered a torrent of raw emotions and civil activism. We all vow to fight for change in his memory. With so many of you, we share the desire for long overdue progress towards eliminating all form of structured racism. The sobering reality is that in America, racism is a public health crisis. We see it deeply ingrained impacts in our national inequitable system of education, housing, criminal justice, governance, and healthcare. Racial and economic disparities inhibit the ability of marginalized populations to access healthy food, clean air, safe spaces, and the career opportunities that the privileged have. We need to eliminate the unconscious biases and structural racism. We as medical community are not immune of all these societal phenomena. The question before us now is, what are we going to do about it? We implore as APPNA that change is urgently needed. We need to have a unified path forward. We need to create a community where everyone is welcome and is able to thrive. We need to educate ourselves and advocate to help end racism by educating ourselves, by connecting with organizations that support these ideals. All of us need to reach out to those who may be hurting and feeling disillusioned. We need to vote, we need to volunteer, we need to donate, and speak up when we see injustice, and never stop learning. We as leaders all have a role to play, and each one of us now needs to start playing that role. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Usmani. Now it's my pleasure to invite Nino Brown, who represents ACT Now to Stop War and End Racism. Nino's going to wear some gloves, but in the meantime, again, at the end, we will have the knee and announce the name. So please stay for that.
All right, Nino.
Hello, peace. If y'all know this chant, please repeat after me. Indict, convict, send those killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell. Indict, convict, send those killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell. Indict, convict, send those killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell. My name is Nino Brown. I'm an organizer with the Anti-Coalition, and we act now to stop war and end racism. Right? I'm here because I'm in solidarity with all of the victims of police state terror, all the victims of racism and white supremacy, all of the victims of patriarchy and transphobia, because we cannot forget our brothers and sisters and siblings, such as Tony McDade, such as Ayana Dior, right? Such as Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, Clyde Daly, right? The whole game, this is not just an attack on poor black people, this is an attack on all of black people, right? So when we come out in the streets, we stand in solidarity with every single black life lost to the police state terror. And we're happening all across this country. In every single state there has been rebellion. The media is trying to tell you as a riot, right? It's an outside agitator. But if there's a rebellion in every single city, and if there's global rebellion all over the world, who are the outside agitators? Right? It's racism is the outside. Racism is the outside. So when we're out here, we say that, it's not just a few bad apples, because the actual saying is a few bad apples spoils the whole bunch. If you are a so-called good cop and you stand by and watch another cop just murder somebody on camera and do nothing about it, that does not make you a good cop. Right? That makes you a good cop. We're not out here just to protest just because we want to protest, right? We're out here because we cannot breathe, we cannot live under this system. The same state that refused to give people adequate PPE, adequate health care, is the same state that is killing black people every single day. So no matter what a Democrat can do and kneel in kente cloth, right? The Republican Party is trying to block anti-lynching legislation, right? We can't breathe under the system, and that's why we're out here to demand justice. Right? We need justice, we need power, we need accountability, we need reparations, we need healing, right? And we need a revolution to get rid of a system that was built off my ancestors' backs. A system that it's not broken, right? Because since the beginning of the system, black lives have been expendable. And today we see the same thing. So we cannot ignore the reality that we're in, that there are homeless people all around us, people who have chronic health issues. And we saw the police just whiz down the street to go solve an actual public health crisis. So when Mayor Walsh says that racism is a public health crisis, we have to unite activists, medical professionals, workers, transport workers, teachers, all of us. And we cannot wait until the militarization of the state spills over into our communities, which is why we say we demand three things in the Anti-Coalition right now. We demand that there be justice for all the victims of police brutality, because who knows Usama Rahim? A few people who knows Dennis Reynoso. Dennis Reynoso, he's a Dominican-American Iraq War veteran who was killed by the Lynn police, right? In Massachusetts. It's not George Floyd somewhere else, it's right here, right? Secondly, we demand that the police be defunded, right? The police eat up so much of our city budgets, right? So when I'm not organizing, I teach 5th grade, right? I have students who are homeless, students who have Chromebooks that don't even work, students who relied on the school to eat, right? So we need to take the funds from the police, which don't really solve any of the social and economic crisis, and give it to the people. So when they say defund the police is some crazy idea, no, we're saying we need to take those funds and take care of us because the police are not taking care of us, right? When my students are homeless, I'm not calling the police to tell my students are homeless. When my students are hungry, I'm not calling the police to say, oh, my students need to eat, right? And then lastly, the demilitarization of our communities, because the same war abroad, the same war that they wage in Palestine, the same war that they wage in Afghanistan, Iraq, they bring those military weapons onto our streets, right? We don't need police officers with AK-47s and tanks. We don't need the police. With AK-47s and tanks and military weaponry, we need people to be accountable for each other, right? Without the threat of force, the threat of violence, because that's no way to live. So we're here in solidarity. Thank you so much. Give yourself a pat on the back. This is only the beginning, right? This took 400 years to build. It's not going to fall tomorrow, but I'm glad to be here with y'all. All power to the people.
Thank you so much, Nino. Thank you. Our next speaker, Dr. Padma, from Alliance for Secular and Democratic South Asia, the Boston Coalition.
So if you sing.
Thank you so much. Greetings to everyone.
Closer, mic closer.
Greetings to everyone. Can you hear me?
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Thank you all for coming here. Thank you. Thank you all for coming here. Greetings to everyone. I'm a physician in the area. I'm also a member of the Boston Coalition, and I'm representing the Alliance for a Secular and Democratic South Asia. I've been a part of both organizations. Both are in solidarity with oppressed peoples and minorities here and in South Asia. At the very outset, I want to express my deep admiration and solidarity with the Black community for organizing and leading these courageous protests. And I also want to salute the multinational working people who have joined the Black community in this fight against systemic racism and oppression. As several of the physicians have already said, racism is a public health issue. In the recent COVID and ongoing COVID deaths, the Black community has had more than 2 times the mortality rate of the whites. And recent estimates say that we could have saved 15,000 African American lives if it weren't for the racial disparities. Dr. Africa Stewart, who is a well-known physician and who's part of Doctors Without Borders, said, "Silence is violence," and I won't be part of that. I am so glad we are not silent and we are gathered together here. At this juncture, I also would like to acknowledge the South Asians who were united in struggle with the Blacks in South Africa. Dr. Naicker was a medical doctor and he was a union organizer and became a big leader of the ANC. Dr. Ahmed, there's another organizer called Ahmed Kathrada, who was a South Asian revolutionary and was jailed for 28 years in Robben Island along with Nelson Mandela. Fatima Mir, who co-founded the Federation of South African Women, was of Indian descent. There are many such examples of South Asians working together with Blacks in the United Kingdom and Caribbean and many other countries in the world. And with that, I'll end and I'll say Black Lives Matter, long live people's unity, and please say after me, people united will never be defeated.
People united will never be defeated.
Thank you so much, Dr. Padma. Our next speaker is Hussein Gayat. He's the chair of the Civil Rights Committee of the Islamic Council of New England, a Kenyan American.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'd like to thank the organizers for really organizing this event and for bringing us all together. As people of faith representing the Usmani Council of New England, and as people of faith and people of good conscience, it is incumbent upon us to stand out firmly against injustice. Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. So can we repeat that? Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. One more time.
Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere.
For far too long, and for over 400 years, the African American community, the black community, has been persecuted, has been oppressed. You know, their rights have been taken away. And this is still continuing in 2020. We saw a human life being taken out, being snuffed out. When that individual, an adult, is saying, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And the law enforcement officer was not even hearing him. That is how low the life of the African Americans, the life of the black people were considered by law enforcement. We are taught in our scriptures, and this is in other scriptures too, that all you people of faith stand out firmly for justice as witnesses for God, even if it is against yourselves, against your parents, or your close relatives. So here we see that we are called to something bigger than ourselves, something bigger than against our race or our ethnicity. We are called, when it comes to justice, to stand out for the common humanity. And that is what every one of us, every one of us should strive for. And every one of us should examine ourselves. Are we really free from bias? And as immigrants, it is, if we are to say the truth, a lot of the baggage which is presented in the media against the African American community, against the black community, has been transmitted to us also. So we really have to deal with that ourselves. We are going to be honest and truthful. Whatever is wrong in the media has been given to us, so we have to deal with that. And then finally, also we are told in our scriptures, whoever takes a life unjustly will be as if they have killed all of humanity. Therefore, when we witnessed the life of George Floyd being taken out, if we don't do anything about it, then we will be contributing to those who are taking human lives. So with those few words, I thank again all of you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Dr. Lachelle Weeks from Dana-Farber Cancer Institute.
Hi everybody, can you guys hear me? Yes. Perfect. So like was said, I'm from Dana-Farber. I've been a physician in Massachusetts since 2015. I'm a scientist. I mentioned to my colleagues that one of the first thoughts I had after watching George Floyd's murder, oddly enough, was about the mouse work that I do in lab. After all this time, it still is very unsettling to me to sacrifice an animal. It's the keen awareness of taking something that was once alive and warm and turning it into something cold and dead and disassembled. I'm also a physician. I remember every single chest I've ever compressed doing CPR. The feeling I have pressing my weight into the body of another person. The glance at their face that I always make, and the intense rush of emotions that I swallow, because underneath my arms is someone. A parent, a child, a friend. I remember everyone I've ever pronounced dead. The strange quiet of a chest where a heart once beat, the cries of loved ones hit with the heaviness, all of a sudden, of life without their person. So 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That's the amount of time that a man pressed his knee into another man's body. The moral depravity that is required to hold still for 8 minutes and 46 seconds as life transforms to death underneath you is horrifying to me as a scientist, as a physician, and as a human.
Amen!
I was asked to speak about being a black physician. So I know folks are expecting stories of microaggressions or overt racism that I experienced in the hospital, and that's a story, a very long story for another day. But I do want to address a phenomenon of the last few weeks, and that is emails. So colleagues, some that I talked to, some that I've never spoken to before, have been sending me emails as gestures of support because I'm their black person in their contact list. Things like, I'm sorry for what you're going through, I'll never know what it's like to be black, I pledge to learn more, I pledge to be your ally. Now, dismantling racism is a huge job, so I welcome all of the allies possible. But these notes frustrated me. There have been 1,293 black people killed by police since 2015. Police killed over twice as many black people per capita than whites consistently in that time period. I was in middle school when Abner Louima was sodomized in 1997 while in police custody. I was in high school when Amadou Diallo was shot holding a wallet in 1999. The year I graduated medical school, Freddie Gray's spine was severed in a so-called rough ride. Tatiana Jefferson was playing video games last year. Breonna Taylor was sleeping in her home. So where have all these allies been? It's important to have this conversation because we need to understand that the racism and privilege, they're the disease roots of any ability to have had a lifetime of exposure to police brutality and systematic oppression of black people in every form of media for all these years and to have dismissed it as not your problem. What setting is your moral compass on that you were comfortable on the sidelines all this time? Racism isn't just the misfortune of black people at the hands of bad cops and vigilantes. It sustains itself with the inaction of good people who look away and shift their focus onto damaged property or distorted traffic patterns, rather than share in the righteous indignation of a people who have been oppressed for the entirety of American history. Some call this moment an awakening, but racism has always killed black people. Police violence, disproportionate coronavirus deaths, inequities in housing, education, economics, over-policing of black neighborhoods and public schools, the fact that right now there's a black woman who will die today because an emergency room physician will dismiss her symptoms and concerns as hysteria or drug-seeking behavior. These are all symptoms of the same disease. If you are awakening to this reality for the first time, then your first step as an ally is to ask yourself, how the hell did I sleep through all of this? Anti-black racism is everybody's problem. You must believe that Black Lives Matter, and not matter just enough to be a catchy hashtag, or a rally chant, or a black square on Instagram. Not matters enough to move at a snail's pace towards equality so as not to be disruptive to the status quo. Black lives need to matter enough that we all urgently seek to divest from and counter the myth of the supremacy of whiteness. This is the bar for being an ally and should be the spirit behind any pledge of support. This is the starting point for working together towards racial equality. So to all the new allies, welcome to the fight for racial justice.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. Nakri, who is a psychiatrist retired, and he is representing Imamia Muslim Foundation of Boston.
Thank you. I'm a psychiatrist by profession. I'm representing the Imamia Muslim Foundation and Islamic Muslim Center. We totally support this noble cause. On one hand, when I'm talking to you, first of all, I need to congratulate you who come here and who are attending this. On one hand, I'm profoundly saddened by the loss of the precious lives of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and these are two or three names of many. And we need to really examine. On the other hand, I'm happy that at least we have started a process of dialogue, of difficult conversation, in which we can engage systematically to find what's going on. If you really look historically, who was the first person who actually, the first black person who came on the soil of America? John Rodriguez. He was free man. He was a free man. He lived his life as a free man spent his life in Manhattan, and he actually established in civil law. So then what happened? What's going on? If you look, all three Abrahamic religions, especially Islam, basically teaches same thing that we are originally from, the same descendant of Adam. It is homogeneous. There is no discrimination. So then what's going on? I mean, if you really from the life of the Prophet Muhammad, the way he was treated, the African, the Ethiopian Aryan such as Bilal, and Ibn Mahajim, and also John bin Hawaii, he was a slave, and Imam Ali basically freed him, and later on he was in the Battle of Karbala. Karbala by itself is a beacon of justice. It's not. It's a lesson for humanity. It's not just for Muslims. It basically tells us that you have to be steadfast against oppression, and you have to be talking about the discrimination. Now, let's examine, because if you really go by the speech of the great Martin Luther King Jr., he said that the rights are the language of the unheard. So what is this which America is not hearing but listening? What is that? Well, if you really go by the definition of racism and how racism should be processed, what is the microaggression, one after the other against a small community? Two, they also basically discarding and dismissing your existence to the point that you start to see that you are not existing. I work with people who have trauma, and really working with trauma people, I can see how the process of intergenerational trauma, unprocessed emotions, unprocessed anger, pain, and guilt. And finally, if you really examine the emotional pain, makes you focus powerless because you do not know what you have done, and no further becomes isolated. Versus the emotional guilt, empowers you to be so, if you really examine the intergenerational trauma, they never had a chance to process those feelings. Why is it that we don't give a chance? One after the other, that's right? So, where we have to start? I think when you talk about the systemic process and which we can fight against racism. Out of this, for a fact, there are 660,000 medical journals talk about the racism problem and the